Okay, good evening, parents and students. It's a while since I've had the opportunity to update you about arrangements for examinations this year, and unfortunately some of you were listening to the same videos or similar videos this time last year about arrangements for examinations, but this year is completely different. So I do need you to listen really carefully to what I go through with you, and to ensure that we don't get muddled up between what's happening this year and what happened last year. Lots of the changes are simply because of the point in the academic year that we are. So last year, lockdown happened probably 3 weeks from the end of the GCSE and A-level courses for most students. For students in year 11 and 13 this year, year 12 and year 10 were very disrupted due to lockdown. Year 11 has also been disrupted. So we have a completely different process to ensure that students can progress to the next level of their education. What I do have to say is I am extremely proud of the way year 11 GCSE students and year 13 A-level students have conducted themselves since we returned. They've taken their assessments incredibly seriously. They're working really hard. They're engaging with their tutoring, and we really do hope to see results this summer that reflect the hard work that they've put in and the stuff that they've actually genuinely learned and the skills that they've got. So I'm going to run through a presentation with you this evening. I'm then going to invite our directors of curriculum areas and our curriculum area leaders just to give you a brief message about specific top tips for those particular subject areas, again for year 11 students and for year 13 students. So if you excuse me a moment while I share my slides with you, hopefully you should be able to see a PowerPoint on the screen. And this particular PowerPoint is going to take you through centre assessments. They're what we're calling the assessments that students are going to start immediately after Easter. It was to make sure we didn't use the term mock exams, because these aren't mocks. These are the assessments on which their teacher assessed grades will be based. So teacher assessed grades, again, is a little bit of a misnomer, because that implies that it's an individual teacher just making up a grade. And once I've gone through the process with you, you'll understand that it's not really a teacher assessed grade. The teacher assesses the work, but then we as a centre will determine what the most appropriate grade for that student is. So the key principles for teacher assessed grades come from the fact that all GCSE and A-level exams, as we know them, are cancelled. So they're replaced by teacher assessed grades. Those teacher assessed grades are based on evidence of performance. That's really different to last year. Last year's grades were based on what we thought students would achieve had things been normal. This is different. This is evidence of students' current performance. So if we're going to award a student in year 11 a grade 5, the evidence of their performance in that subject must justify that grade 5. The range of evidence has to be broad and has to be consistent. So we can't cherry pick evidence. We can't say, well, we'll use mock exam 1 because that was the best for student A, and mock exam 2 because that was the best for student B, and some coursework for student C. We've got to determine what the evidence is, and that evidence base has got to be the same for all students. The content that we assess has got to have been taught. Now, that doesn't mean that it's got to have been taught to every individual student. It means that it's got to have been taught as part of the programme of teaching. So some content might have been taught in lockdown. Some students might have missed content because they were self-isolating. That shouldn't be quite taken into account with the range of evidence, although we can look at evidence for particular students if they weren't here for an assessment or they missed particular content through a special consideration process. So evidence, materials got to have been taught in order for it to be assessed. And really, if a piece of work has been taught, it should be assessed. So we shouldn't be missing out huge chunks of content that students have been taught by only doing very small assessments. The evidence that our assessments are based on has got to be available for scrutiny by the awarding organisations. We're told that there'll be two sorts of scrutiny. So there'll be random scrutiny and there will be risk-based scrutiny. So where a school submits grades that don't look normal for that school will have the evidence for a particular subject scrutinised by the awarding organisation. We'll be asked for two things. First of all, we'll be asked to justify how we have come to that judgment. So what particular assessments have taken place. And then we will be asked to supply the evidence for particular students that justifies the grade. So it'll be about the evidence that we've chosen and then also the way that we have graded that evidence. The grades that are submitted to awarding organisations are confidential. They're confidential until results day, and the sharing of those results, if we told you what results we had given particular students, that is exam malpractice. So please don't ask us for those grades. However, we will share the grades you've achieved for particular pieces of evidence that contribute to that overall grade. So you will know, you'll already know what you got in your first mock exams. You will know the grades that you achieve in your centre assessments. You will know the grades that you achieve in other pieces of coursework that you do. What you won't know is how those grades are weighted. So it's not an average. Obviously, work that students are doing now is more representative of their performance than work that was done back in November. So these exams, these assessments that students are going to do immediately after Easter will form a large part of the evidence in terms of the weighting. We've done an awful lot to prepare students for these assessments. So the first thing that we did, and we've done it twice now, is we've done a thorough analysis of progress through content. So in each curriculum area, we've looked at the specification, we've looked at what's been taught securely, what's not been taught securely, what might need refreshing, and what might simply need omitting from assessments. We've then taken the assessments and we've adapted them, so we've removed any content that we think hasn't been taught securely. We've reduced the number of papers that students are sitting. So that's because the assessment window is much shorter than normal. Normally the assessments, the GCSEs and A-levels take place over about 6 weeks, but these have been reduced down to about 2.5 weeks. So students aren't doing a huge number of papers. And actually this morning, some students have been concerned they've only got 2 maths papers or they've only got 1 English paper. So the assessments that they are sitting are quite different. We've produced topic lists, so students only revise the things that we are going to assess them on. We have pre-released some research tasks, so students doing particular high-level questions that are testing their skills to analyse or their skills to design a product, are not relying on things that they have to remember. So simple memory has been removed from the assessment so we can actually see the level of skill that students can demonstrate. Some long answer questions that students don't always answer well under exam conditions will be undertaken in class later on in the term. We've done extensive revision and tutoring. Students, particularly in year 11, have been delighted with tutoring even on a Saturday morning, and I'm seeing around the building lots of A-level students working with their science teachers quite late into the evening, going over stuff that they'll need for their assessments. We've already created individual evidence records and folders for all students in all subjects. The evidence is listed on the front, the grades will be listed on the front, so when we need that evidence, when we scrutinised in the summer, or in the case of appeals, those pieces of evidence will be in those folders, nice and simple. So preparation. Over the Easter, I'm not going to call it a holiday, over the Easter break, students have got lots of material to revise and prepare from. So they've got revision calendars, thank you Mrs. Latham. They've got pre-released research sheets that they'll be allowed to take into the exam with them, that allow them to prepare what they know about particular designers and particular design houses for design and technology, so that not having to think something up that requires some creativity cold. And for all subjects, we've produced topic lists. So for A-level students, we've got individual topic lists for individual subjects. For GCSE, we've produced a topic list booklet that also contains some top tips for preparing. So top tips for preparing include planning their revision, writing a timetable, but not spending so long on the timetable that they don't actually get on with any revision. Finding a space, talking to their teachers, revisiting things often, varying the way in which they study and not just rewriting their notes, doing lots of practice questions, having a break and spending some time relaxing. I'm going to underline this, avoiding social media. So students think that they can multitask, they can have a video on in the background, they can listen to music in the background, but often that just creates a huge distraction, and they think they've been revising for an hour and a half, but actually they've spent a huge proportion of that an hour and a half on Facebook or on Netflix, or choosing which video they're going to watch or listen to next. So just turn off the social media and focus on the revision. It means that after an hour revising, you can then go and have a break. Take care of yourself, sleep and eat properly. There is no question that exams are stressful. Nobody enjoys doing exams, but some students do find themselves getting abnormally stressed. And if students are really struggling, they must come and talk to someone so that they don't feel too stressed. Don't panic, plan your work, and then work your plan. And my 3 top tips to them are to read the question, and thirdly, read the question. When we look through students' assessments and look where things have gone wrong, it's often because students are answering what they think the question said rather than what the question actually said. So some key dates for you. I will share this presentation as well as the video. So from the 21st of April, that's immediately after we come back from the Easter break, up until the 5th of May, we are having our centre assessments. So they will be in the main in the hall, they will be under exam conditions, and all students will sit the same paper at the same time. From the 6th to the 28th of May, we'll then continue with class-based assessments and coursework. We've got a half-term break, and then from the 7th to the 11th of June, staff will be involved in evidence collation and moderation. That's to make sure that the grades we award are the same as grades that will be awarded in other schools that we work with. So we'll be working with a network of schools to check the level of grading that we are awarding. During that time, if there are big gaps in evidence for certain students, we may be asking them to come into school to do assessments or to look for evidence that fills those gaps. The second 2 deadlines are absolute deadlines. The 17th of June is the deadline for us to upload or to have uploaded absolutely everything that we will need to share with awarding organisations so that the awarding organisations can publish the results. The 18th of June is the national deadline, and we are told that that will not move. There is a lot of concern nationally about pressure on organisations such as ourselves that are effectively further education colleges, because every student who comes here will have a teacher assessed grade in something, even our year 9 students. So the workload and simply the number of assessments that will have to be reported is huge. So we can't be flexible about those dates. So any evidence collection and moderation that isn't done before the 11th of June won't be able to be taken into account. So curriculum areas will be setting specific deadlines for specific courses, especially for Btec courses, because again, there's a big process involved in uploading those grades. Results days are earlier than normal. 10th of August for A levels, 12th of August for GCSEs and level 2. The A level results day will tie up with UCAS and clearing. There was some confusion probably a month ago that that might not be the case, but those results days are earlier and will lead straight in to clearing. Procedures for students coming into assessments. Year 11s will come in their normal time, go to their normal tutor period and be collected to go to the hall, so we don't end up with queues of students not socially distanced outside of the hall. After the exam, they'll be dismissed back to their lessons or sometimes dismissed home. If they're going to be dismissed home early, you will know. So we will communicate a timetable to you that says students in year 11 will leave from 3 p.m, for example, because they've got an afternoon exam that it doesn't make sense for them to go back to their lessons. For year 13 students will arrive in line with their normal timetable. Lessons won't be cancelled. The more lessons students can go to ensure they're properly prepared, the better, but they will be expected to arrive at the exam hall and go straight to their desks. They will be wearing face masks throughout the exam unless they're exempt. We have one big change to the way we're organising things this year. So normal equipment they will need. So they'll need their clear pencil case with their pens and pencils and calculators in them. They don't need a phone. They don't need a watch or any other electronic device. But if they do bring them to school, these exams are not external GCSE and A-level exams, they're internal assessments. So we've taken the decision to allow students to take a small bag with their belongings into the hall. That means that we're not trying to store things around the building, we're not trying to store big bags in lockers. They need a small bag in which the belongings that they absolutely need for the day and nothing else is stored. Their phone can go in that bag, but it must be switched off. It's a little bit Ryanair style. The bag's got to be small enough to fit under their chair. So no big coats, no footballs, no skateboards, no scooters, no other things that they might bring to school on a normal day can go into the hall. And clearly we don't want stuff stored around the building because it all contributes to the potential for cross-contamination. So bags can go into the hall, but nothing that won't fit under the chair. And clearly it has to fit right under the chair, because if we needed to evacuate the hall for any reason, we can't have huge bags and coats hanging over into the aisles. So that is a change that won't happen normally, but that is because of the way in which these assessments are taking place during a pandemic. So in terms of help, if you need information about the assessments specifically, Mrs. Coleman, the exams officer, is the person to talk to. I'm going to underline the what to do if you're ill, Please do not come to school if you're ill, particularly if you've got symptoms that might be COVID symptoms. If you've got symptoms that might be COVID symptoms, normal procedures apply. Email c19@auea.co.uk. So I will hopefully have disappeared my presentation, and my colleagues should now have reappeared on the screen. So I'm delighted to welcome directors of subject areas and curriculum area leaders to just talk to you very briefly with their top tips and their messages to Year 11 and Year 13. So I'm going to start with Mrs. Latham, who is Curriculum Area Leader for English. Mrs. Latham.
Hi Year 11, hi Year 13. I just want to start by saying how completely blown away we've been within the English department by your effort, by your motivation since coming back into school and throughout the last sort of however many months it's been with lockdown and everything else. You've been fantastic. Top tips for us. You've had the extracts pre-released for you for literature and for language. And my top tip, I've been saying this to my classes this week, is read them every day. So sit down and have your breakfast and read through an extract. Pin it up on the mirror whilst you're brushing your teeth and read it then. But the best way for you to prepare for English is not to spend a whole day and then forget about it all, but a little bit and often, making sure that you are really confident with what you're going to be writing about. Also, you need to be making sure that you are practicing writing for an extended period of time. Your exams are going to be 2 hours, so you need to know that you can actually write an answer and keep writing for more than 10 minutes at a time. So please set aside a bit of time over Easter to practice some of those longer answers. Year 13, again, we've been absolutely impressed is the wrong word. You've been incredible with the work you've been producing all through the course and through the most recent lockdown. It's been amazing. And so this is your final chance now to show us what you can do and just how brilliant you are. So top tips for A-level is focus on the detail, not just the big picture. Make sure that everything you are writing is evidenced and that you're going to be fantastic. So thank you so much. It's been a privilege teaching you the last year. I know it's been unexpected and chaotic and really, really challenging, but you've shown resilience, you've shown that you care about how well you do and about getting set up for the future. So all the best, and I'm sure you'll do yourselves proud.
Thank you, Mrs. Latham. Mr. Woodidge is going to speak on behalf of Mrs. Sahota from our maths curriculum area. Mrs. Sahota is not available today, unfortunately. Mr. Woodidge.
Hi guys, excuse me, Year 11 and Year 13. As Mrs. Latham said, you've all been doing an absolutely fantastic job preparing for your exams so far. You've all been working so incredibly hard. Our 3 top tips for mathematics. Number 1, use the marks for the question as a guide to the length and complexity of your answer. Okay. Number 2, highlight or underline keywords. And number 3, show your marking. Good luck to you all.
Thank you, Mr. Woodidge. And over to Mrs. Bing, who's going to talk about engineering and design and technology.
Good evening, welcome, and I have 2 messages. So one for our D&T and product design students and a message for our Btec students. So for D&T, both Year 11 and Year 13 students, you are still going to be assessed on your NEA. You'll also have your assessment in the hall. So when it comes to the hall, my top tip for you guys is to utilise those worksheets that Ms. Sorsby talked about and that your teachers have given you for your assessments. Make sure they're completed. Use the topic lists and look at them every day to make sure that you understand which you are going to be discussing and talking about in your assessments. Take your time and answer the questions fully using all your technical knowledge that you've been given so far this year. So well done for that. If you need any support for your NEA, your D&T teachers are available over the Easter period. So please, they have said and asked me to tell you that you can contact them over the Easter period. particularly in the second week, so they can have a bit of a break, and they will help you get through your NEA. So good luck in those assessments. When it comes to the Btec then, the Btec is slightly different. So talking to our Year 11 students, you've actually finished your Btec, and we're now in the process of looking through those assignments, and your grades will then get assessed and IV'd. Level 3 students, your grades are important to you. You still need to keep submitting to ensure you get the best grades possible from that unit. Again, the Btec teachers are available during your Easter period. We do expect you to keep working, okay? You will get a break, but it will be when after June. So I do need you to keep working to get the best grades possible and achieve your expected grade. So keep working and stay safe.
Thank you, Mrs. Bing. Mr. Branch, Director of Science, is going to talk about science.
Hi. Whether you're studying science A-levels or GCSE, it's really important to do active and not passive revision. Your teachers will have recommended lots of active revision, and this should be where you're focusing most of your time. You need to spend time working and sometimes struggling with the material in order for it to become embedded in your brain. For science, applying your knowledge to an exam-style question and then closely reviewing the exam board mark scheme to learn the specific language required is always going to be one of the most important forms of revision you can do. Obviously, in terms of revision overall, you need to find a balance, but when it comes to work, you must be disciplined, and it's about making strong choices. The more strong choices you make, revising without distraction and making quality revision and not just quantity, the better you'll do. I echo what all the other curriculum area leaders have said. You've been amazing since you've come back, and I'd just like to say we believe in you and good luck with your assessments.
And finally, Miss Matthews is going to talk about social sciences. So, Miss Matthews. Unmute yourself, Miss Matthews.
Hello, I'm going to speak to you about business, and some of the top tips I'm going to give you actually link into both when it comes to year 13 and year 11. But like everybody else, I would just like to echo that you have been absolutely fantastic in how you have presented yourselves to us, not only during lockdown and since you've come back, but definitely through the 2 years of study within the business studies area. So we're really impressed by your perseverance and the resilience that you have shown. You've definitely role modelled to us how we should be acting during this time as well. And I would like to thank you for doing that. But in terms of the centre assessments that are coming up, obviously from your timetable, you will notice that because business comes more towards the end of that period, there's a danger that you can, for both year 13 and 11, prioritise those exams that are at the beginning rather than at the end. So what I would like to say to you, as everybody else has said, please make sure you plan. Plan, plan, plan. It's really vital that you have set up a timetable where you have chunked down everyone's revision, not just business, but all subject areas. So every day you have a mini focus so that you're not overwhelmed and you are challenging yourself to get the best grade possible. Because for me, it will be about practice. Most of you in year 13 and year 11 will want to be practicing in timed conditions, and so it's really important that you set yourself on your oven, not your phone, or maybe through a friend, through a family member being beside you, a timer that specifically gives you a countdown for how long it's taking you to answer those questions. Make sure you really know from the marks what type of structure you should be having when it comes to the questions that you are answering, so that you know that 4 minutes a mark would mean that you would need to do a peach paragraph in year 13, for example. Please make sure that you use the resource packs that we've given you. They include the topic list and also activities. We've spent a lot of time on them to make revision easier for you. So let's use them because they will be advantageous for you. There is no denying, if you listen to us and you communicate to us, we can get you the best grade possible, because ultimately that's what we want for you. So thank you for working hard now, and thank you for continuing to work hard. We really appreciate it.
Thank Thank you, everyone. And thank you for listening. None of us planned for how we would assess students so that they could progress to the next stage of their education in the middle or hopefully towards the end of a pandemic. Thank you for everything you've done to support us. Thank you, parents, for everything you've done to support your children and us in supporting them. We really do wish you the very best of luck, but there's a little bit of luck that we create by doing some work. So work hard over Easter, and hopefully the grades you achieve in the summer will be what you need and what you want to take you on to the next stage in your education. Thank you. Have a really good evening.